Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Life. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Opened on July 1st, 1964, Heritage Park Historical Village is a historical park in Calgary, Alberta, on 127 acres of parkland on the banks of the Glenmore Reservoir. As one of Canada's largest living museums, it is one of the city's most visited tourist attractions. Exhibits span Western Canadian history from the 1860s to the 1950s. Many of the buildings are historical and were transported to the park to be placed on display. Others are recreations of actual buildings. Most of the structures are furnished and decorated with genuine artifacts. Staff dress in historic costume and antique automobiles and horse-drawn vehicles service the site. One of the more interesting draws is the Moyie, a paddle-wheeler ship that sails on Glenmore Reservoir and is an iconic fixture of Heritage Park. Launched in 1964, the diesel-powered boat is a half-size replica of the original Moyie, which plied the waters of Kootenay Lake from 1898 until its retirement in 1957. This late 1940s footage, transferred some 3 decades ago, demonstrates how important transportation was in the interior of BC. Roads were challenging to build, and the boats were employed to move not just people, but freight, food, and on occasion, vehicles. The original Moyie was built in prefabricated sections in Toronto, Ontario, and was originally intended for service on the Stikine River as part of an all-Canadian water and rail route to the goldfields during the Klondike Gold Rush. However, when the project failed for the lack of a railway, the Moyie and her sister ship, the Minto, were put into service on Arrow Lakes and Kootenay Lake, in the Kootenays of southern BC. She was launched and christened at Nelson on October 22, 1898, and embarked on her maiden voyage on December 7th, connecting with a new line of the Canadian Pacific Railway which ran from Lethbridge through to the Crow's Nest Pass to Nelson. The Moyie soon became a favorite with passengers, featuring a large and elegantly appointed dining saloon, a luxurious smoking lounge, a private ladies' saloon, and comfortable overnight cabins, all richly decorated in gold leaf. As the major vessel on Kootenay Lake, she was dubbed the Crow Boat and was the queen of the lake during the boom years of the early 1900s, when the population of the Kootenays was expanding and there was an increased demand for passenger and freight services. During this period, the Moyie was joined by many other large and luxurious sternwheelers, among them CPR's Kuskonook, which arrived in 1906, and the Bonington, launched in 1911. These large and richly appointed vessels were part of the CPR's plan to develop the area into a major tourism center, and the railway also built a grand resort hotel in the town of Balfour. However, the onset of the First World War put an end to many of CPR's grand dreams for the West Kootenays, and one by one, the other sternwheelers were taken off of the route, and the hotel at Balfour was closed. After the war, the Moyie remained in almost constant service, continuing as a relief vessel, towing barges and hauling supplies such as lumber or coal. She was also used for pleasure excursions, and on holidays like Victoria Day, could be seen on the lake traveling from Nelson to Proctor, hung with streamers and bunting and carrying 200 passengers. Through the next 40 years, her route and purpose changed very little, and by the 1930s, the CPR had retired its other vessels and she continued on alone, accompanied only by her relief ship, the Grant Hall. On Arrow Lakes, her sister ship, the Minto, was enjoying a similarly long and prestigious career, running until April 24, 1954. The 1931 CPR timetable and map shows the numerous stops along the shore of Kootenay Lake, where supplies and mail were delivered. For some folks, this was their only connection to the outside world, until the completion of roads to Nelson and further. The Moyie's last run was on April 27, 1957. She ran her regular 87-mile-long route, stopping in towns and landings all along the lake. At each stop, she was greeted by tearful residents who honored her many years of service by farewell banners, songs, and wreaths. The town of Kaslo, although no longer a boomtown it once was, the residents decided that they wanted to provide the Moyie's final home. CPR was agreeable to the plan and sold her to the town for $1. She now resides permanently in Kaslo as a museum. Restored and as the last surviving passenger sternwheeler of her era, she receives thousands of visitors every year and has been made a National Historic Site and is a well-known BC landmark. So the next time you take a trip on the Moyie on Glenmore Lake, you can imagine what a day-long journey might have been like 100 years ago on Kootenay Lake.